Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn series. And tonight, we are going to be looking into working as a Salesforce consultant. Particularly, we're going to be looking into how to create a solution design document and data model. So you've seen several Lunch and Learn series, particularly for our special edition where we introduce you to different professions you can take within the Salesforce ecosystem. We've walked through becoming a data analyst, becoming a business analyst, becoming a developer. And tonight we're going to be going into consulting. So consulting varies across different domains. Okay. So sometimes you get overwhelmed when you call yourself or when you hear the word consultants. Consultant essentially is someone that knows a bit of everything. By a bit of everything, literally, you know at least something in an area of Salesforce where you become a specialized person or an expert, right? So when you're called a consultant, you know a bit of everything, but does not make you someone that is an expert in everything. For instance, you can be a consultant of the non-for-profit cloud. You can be a consultant for the financial services cloud. You can be a consultant for the experience cloud. And some consultants actually work between clouds and they know more than just one cloud and they specialize in different clouds and they are also called consultant. But when you get a job as a consultant, the role and the responsibility will be unique across all clouds. For instance, if you get a job as a non-for-profit cloud consultant or a sales cloud consultant, the things I'm going to be telling you today is still going to be applicable to those clouds. So it's not, it's cloud agnostic, if that's the right word to use, meaning that you don't necessarily have to be a non-for-profit cloud consultant. You can be a consultant and learn the principles of consulting within the Salesforce ecosystem. So given that, let's go into some of the things that I'll be walking you through today. The first thing first is why become a consulting partner with Salesforce? Yes, if you get a job, chances are you'll be working with a Salesforce consulting partner. So if you're looking for a consulting job, then chances are your first gig would be with a Salesforce consulting partner. And that means you will be able to work alongside other consultants consulting for a Salesforce consumer, a Salesforce software consumer. So let me explain. When you're filling your trailhead, there were some questions they ask you. How is your relationship with Salesforce? Are you a partner? Are you a consumer or a customer? Are you a developer? Are you this? Are you that? So technically what they're trying to find out is where should we put you in terms of their data, aggregation and the likes. So when you're working as a consultant, you're most likely going to be working with a Salesforce consulting partner that is consulting for a Salesforce customer. RBC, for instance, if they decide to use Salesforce, they are customer. Deloitte, for instance, if they decide to help RBC configure their Salesforce platform, they are Salesforce consulting partner. Okay? So know the difference between a Salesforce consulting partner and a Salesforce customer. When you're buying that license and you're using it for your business, you're a customer. When you're working for a company that buys that license and use it for their business, then you're a consultant to that company. So how do you become a consultant? Before you can become a consultant, obviously you need to have the training, but you can also work with a consulting partner. So let's go with how you are going to become a consulting partner with Salesforce. Then we go through the registration process and the benefits of why you should do that. I'll tell you some of the benefits when we get to the session of benefit, but there's so many benefits to becoming a consulting partner that you need to know. Okay, let's say you haven't gotten to that stage because there are requirements for you to become a consulting partner. If you haven't gotten to that stage, then you can work as a consultant for a consulting partner. And how do you carry out your activities as a consultant working for a consulting partner. Your job might be similar to a business analyst role, but trust me, it is different because as a consultant, you're a jack of all trades within that particular period. So that's why we encourage consultants to learn business analysis, not because, they can also switch to business analysis role. No, their job requires them to have the knowledge of business analysis. So how do you carry out a discovery session? Design documents. As a consultant, you are required to prepare a design document. As a consultant, you're required to provide estimates for the task that you've been given. As a consultant, most likely, depending on how big your team is, you might or you may be required to create data model. And as a consultant, you're the one demonstrating the application you built, and you're the one carrying out the user acceptance test. What is user acceptance test? When you do your business analysis training, perhaps you'll be introduced to those concepts. But user acceptance test is when you actually give the business the solution you've created and you're saying, we are done. Test the solution and you can, or you're good to go with the solution. Then what happens after that? Training. Because how would you say you've done a project with a customer and they don't know how to use that application? So you need to provide training or maintenance of that application. So today, I'm hoping that by the end of this session, you'll be able to know what it entails to become a consulting partner, how to process the registration, how to carry out a discovery session, create a design document, and be able to go through the end-to-end process, including estimation. Okay, we're going to go through the billing app project, but we're going to go through it as a consultant as opposed to solving that problem, because we already solved the problem, right? But we're going to go through how to prepare a documentation or a solution design documentation for this application, as well as prepare estimates, data model for this application. So this application will give you an overview of what to expect on the job. This project will give you an overview of what and how to estimate for your work as well. Because there's one thing for you to say, okay, I know how to design. What if you're asked to estimate the cost of this project? How do you estimate the cost of this project? How do you schedule a work plan, like the timeline, the schedule for this stuff? How do you do that? We're going to learn everything today. By hopefully, we should be able to finish this within 2 hours. Now, why become a Salesforce consulting partner? I know sometimes the economy does not encourage a lot of you guys to even study because it's so much to study and to learn Salesforce. However, becoming a Salesforce consulting partner gives you an edge from a consulting world. For instance, if you become a Salesforce consulting partner, there is a likelihood of you attracting clients by default. Yes, sometimes you need to bid for clients. I'm hoping that I'll be able to show you a project which we had to bid for, if time permits. Sometimes you need to bid. They'll call it requests for proposal. You have to submit a request. You have to submit a proposal for a particular project that is about to happen. Once you bid for that project, then they do some filtering. That filtering is based on the criteria they've set for the project. And they can select you for maybe further questioning and the likes. But how? Why should you become one? You can make more money. You can gain more respect. You can, instead of you making 100 grand a year, you could potentially be making 100 grand every month. If you're interested in going along this path, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of team effort. That's the reason why sometimes we try to put you into groups at Blackboard so that you guys can become friends. and think along creating the business as opposed to looking for job, because there are opportunities for you to actually become a consulting partner. And you also have access to the back ends, what you don't typically get as a Salesforce consultant. For instance, as a student right now, the only access you have is Trailhead. But if you become a consulting partner, you have access to some of the things that you wouldn't get as just a Trailhead student. Okay. So there are benefits and it's free. It's free. I think you have to pay maybe $100 or something, but that's one-time fee. Okay. So nothing stops you besides the requirements. So let's go into some of the things Salesforce promise consulting partners. So if you look at this, by the way, if you want to become one, you can go to this link. This document will be shared with people that are attending this session. So you feel free to ask. And if you put your email address, I'm pretty sure you'll get this documentation. Salesforce has different tiers of consulting partnership. There's a base tier. That's the default partnership you become once you fill the application and you're successful. But there's one thing that Salesforce promotes. That's customer success. They want their customers to be successful. As a student, you see how they give you Trailhead. They give you information. They want you to be successful. So you're also a customer, or I would say a stakeholder in Salesforce ecosystem. The stakeholders are developers, those that are creating the application in App Exchange. They are stakeholders, the customers. So don't feel left out if you feel like Salesforce ecosystem is so big. No, it's big, but you're also a stakeholder in that ecosystem. So if you stop learning Salesforce Trailhead, if you stop doing the certification, Salesforce will collapse because no one would know how to use Salesforce. And if no one knows how to use Salesforce, customers will not come to buy Salesforce license. And if customers do not come to buy Salesforce license, Salesforce will be out of business. So you, the trainers, the community like this, they are part of those that make Salesforce successful. But they are also innovative. Salesforce is innovative. Look at the Agent Force, for instance. They roll it out within 6 months and they keep increasing, making it better. They are moving in the direction of what the world is saying, what the IT world is saying, because they are very innovative. That's what makes a business successful. That's also what makes a business sustain itself in the ecosystem. They can either acquire other businesses or become innovative in their approach to doing business. So they acquire or they develop within their system. And obviously engagement. That certifications you're doing is engagement. That Trailhead points you're winning is engagement. Customer relationship, all those Dreamforce is engagement. TDS to 2025 is engagement. They engage you so that you don't lose focus. They engage you so that you know that there's something going out there. All this dreaming that you're creating is engagement. That's all. You're making Salesforce more successful by doing all those things. So let's go into the requirements for becoming a consulting partner with Salesforce. You need to have a certification. You need to have a certification and also maintain that certification. I think you need to have 2 certifications. So if you go to the consulting partner, the link, you will see the requirements for becoming one. There's some things you might have, you might need to sign into to get, but there's so many opportunities. Okay, that didn't go through. Okay, this is a consulting partner that is an ISV. So ISV are those that are actually creating the apps. You know, when you're looking for a solution within the Salesforce ecosystem and you go to the App Exchange, ISV partners are those that are actually creating the apps that you are using. So there is a requirement for that, but you need to start with the base. Okay? You need to start with the base. They have different requirements from making sure you have the right certification and making sure that you have a public profile. If you look at Manifest and Company, for instance, okay, if you look at Manifest and Company, you will see that for you to be able to become a consulting partner, you need to have a website. You need to have a team. And you don't necessarily need to have projects you've worked on, but it's always good to have the projects that you've worked on as well. Real project, not dummy projects. Okay? So you need to have a website, you need to have a team, you need to have a profile. Like your team needs to be present on the website. They ask for your LinkedIn, they ask for your bank account that is associated to your company. So it's a lot of requirement. It can take about 3 months or few weeks, depending on how fast you want to be. Okay? But you need to go through the process. The link I have provided here would give you a starting point. Okay? Become a consulting partner. Click on that link and you see the requirement. First aid certification. So you need to have at least 2 certifications. I need to have an experience. So not just the certifications, but you need to have experience as a company developer, or you need to have a bank account, you need to have a CEO. And not just that, you need to provide reference. You know, I told you about the website. You need to have a website, a social media. They will collect every information. Because do you know what it means to become a partner? It means you can actually go on your social media and say Salesforce consulting partner. And Salesforce needs to vet you in order for you to become a partner. So you need your certifications, you need your experience, you need a public website, domain, social media, team reference, 3 references, those that can vouch for you. So it's either people that you've worked for or you've worked with, or you just have to find 3 professional references that can vouch for you, whether in the industry, in the education, in the government sector, but they have to be valid and they may call them or not call them. So if you meet these 4 requirements, as at the time this was created, these 4 requirements were valid enough for you to become a consulting partner. Okay? Now, when you become a consulting partner, you have what they call access to the back end. By back end, I don't mean the Trailhead. Trailhead is for everyone. Even if you don't have a certification, you can go on Trailhead and start using Trailhead. But as a consulting partner, you can, let me see, I don't want to disrupt my session because sometimes when you log in into consulting partner, it disrupts the sessions. It is partners.salesforce.com. Okay? And let me try to log in. If you're not a partner, you can become one by clicking on that link. But log in. And once you log in, you have access to some portals that would help you learn things that you don't see on Trailhead. For instance, Data Cloud. If you want to learn Data Cloud, Salesforce Partner Community has Data Cloud step-by-step process on how to become effective Data Cloud consultants. This you typically don't see on the Salesforce Trailhead. Okay? I'm using a wrong, that was why I said the sessions, right? Let me see if I can log in using a proper account, because I don't use Blackforce to do Salesforce consulting partner. Okay. So let me log in using Incognito, partner.salesforce.com. Then you accept, you log in, then you log in. This is if you're a Salesforce consulting partner, by the way. If you're not, then it's different. Okay. You have to go through the process. So I'm just logging in using my account. and I can use my again, the goal is to show you what you can see or what to expect once you have your consulting partner license. Okay. It helps you learn more than just a trailhead. And I encourage each and every one of you that are aspiring to become a consultant to actually try that. Okay. Let me try again. It's still trying to log me in because I'm using a cognito. Sometimes things might be cached. Okay. Log in. Sometimes it can take a bit of time, but if it takes longer than expected time, I will move on. Okay. Okay. I think we are in now. So you connect to this org, you go to the profile. Okay. And again, partners. Once you have a session on, it becomes really, really technical to get into the partners. Can you see how it's constantly switching? So let me see if I can block that session. It gets really confused. Okay, let me close there, try again from here. Okay, we might probably get back to this. I don't want us to spend too much time on this, but I will show you before perhaps the end of the class. So once you have your consulting partner portal, you'll be able to carry out or learn some things that you don't see in the Salesforce trailhead. For instance, the loyalty management. You don't see that like a very organized, structured training in the Salesforce trailhead, but you can see it in the partner site. Marketing cloud personalization, order management administrator, ISIN prediction builder. You may see the trails in the trailhead, but in the partners community portal, you will get to see a detailed case study that you can go through step by step and be able to accomplish a milestone. Okay. That's one of the benefits. The other benefits are there are some trainings that Salesforce may open, and the only people that can have access to that training are those that have consulting partnership. So again, it's really a no-brainer. It's free, but you need to meet the requirements to become one. So once you become one, then you can have access to even demo orgs. Okay, you can have access to demo orgs that you typically would not gain access to as a trailhead member only. Okay, so again, if you have this PDF, click on this link, you'll be able to see some of the things that you will be able to see as a Salesforce partner. So that's pretty much about becoming a Salesforce consulting partner. But I don't expect you guys as cohort 9 to start. Yes, it's an aspiration. It's something that you should aim to achieve or acquire at some